So welcome everyone to the first generation of Historically Marginalized Students at Berkeley presentation sponsored by the Center for Educational Equity and Excellence, CE3. My name is Julian Ledesma. I serve as the director of CE3, and we want to do in this session is just kind of walk you through an overview of what we offer in our cluster of programs that we call CE3. Thank you again for participating. We have over 40 attendees registered right now. We have 7 panelists to share with you today, so you get to hear from them about what we are, who we are, what we do, and you'll also hear from our students, folks who have also been involved with our programs and services. So thanks again for being here. You're here for our panelists, and they'll introduce each other and themselves in just a little bit. Right now, I just wanted to take a moment to say welcome once again and congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment to be admitted into the #1 public university in the entire world. We're very proud of that. We're very proud of you. It also is a time where we are navigating an environment that is unlike anything we've experienced before. So I can tell you that my colleagues in CE3, many of the folks that you have here on the panel with you today, along with our students, can speak to how we're able to help and support in this time. I think it's been a strength of ours to be able to talk to students and support them making sense of everything that's going on. It's been a difficult thing. We don't have all the answers, and we continue to learn alongside with students. So thank you for being here. Congratulations once again. We're going to do a presentation that's going to last probably 20 to 30 minutes, where we're going to talk about our programs, our services. You'll hear from our staff. But then we also want to make time for your questions. So we're going to spend the latter half of this presentation hearing from you. You'll hear from our students and our student panelists. And again, the idea is to give you as much information as you need to help you think about what's important to you as you make this decision. And really, again, try to leave the session knowing that you have a solid base and network of support as you make this decision for yourself. So with that said, again, we'll have the panelists introduce themselves as they appear on the agenda. What we want to do to begin early on is to just also introduce you to who we are and what we do. And one way to do that, if you know anything about CE3 and you've gone to the website, again, we have a number of programs in our cluster. So I think sometimes the best way to convey who we are from that macro level is for you to get familiar with our website. And another good way to do that is for us to share a little bit about who we are via video. So we have a video we'd like to play for you for the next few minutes.
I'm Purpose Gills. I'm a student parent, student veteran, and a first generation college student.
Then I did community college for 2 years in Los Angeles and managed to transfer here, yay, in physics.
My parents, they didn't even finish middle school. And I come from a family of immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself.
Well, just as California itself has changed as a state, so has Berkeley. And our student population is much more diverse, not only in terms of race and ethnicity, but in terms of life experience.
I served in the Air Force for 10 years. I had several jobs from finance to air crew, and I deployed twice and traveled all over the world.
This is no longer a school where you have 4,000 18-year-olds arriving all at once, pretty much similar kinds of experience to start their college years.
So already coming to Berkeley, it was a culture shock from rural to urban, but what made it really tough was that growing up, I'm from a foster youth background.
I never thought I was going to make it past 18 because I've had cousins who passed away at the age of 14 and 15 due to gang violence.
Once my son was diagnosed, then I came back to school. And I gave up my career because of the autism and everything. So it's just really hard to be a student at 48, and A lot of days I don't want to be a student, but for my son and other people, I have to be.
Yes, the diversity of our student body is certainly one of the main reasons for creating CE3.
So CE3 stands for the Centers for Educational Equity and Excellence here at Berkeley. Well, part of it is, again, I think that our staff, which I really think is the strength of CE3, have lived those experiences. We have probably 70% of our staff are Cal alumni, and many, if not all, have been first gen or low income or underrepresented at this university. So we live that.
It was a different support that I got from CE3 where I just felt different there.
With these CE3 programs, they actually reached out to me. If they didn't do that, I wouldn't have known about all these other programs that were available to me, all these other resources that were available to me.
The program that I found that was in CE3 was Berkeley Hope Scholars. It's the retention center for former foster youth, probation youth, and adopted youth.
About half of the undergraduates here at UC Berkeley are part of one or more CE3 communities. That's 12 to 13,000 students per year.
The Transfer Center told me about all of the resources that they offer and provide. Once I got plugged in, I started thriving.
It's been life-changing, and not just that, also like the Undocumented Students program that partners with EOP has also been such a huge help, from like mental health, holistic counseling, academic counseling.
I went to the Student Parents Center at the Transfer Center. And so within going there, they helped me with housing. They helped me, it gave me a network to start off with.
I had been in the military for so long and out of school for a while, and so I didn't feel like I was ready for university life. But the Cal Veterans Center offered me many resources to help bridge that gap.
It's in the very founding charter of the University of California that it provides opportunity to those who have not traditionally had the opportunity to go to colleges and universities.
I've made my parents very proud. I've made myself proud. I've definitely grown as a person, and I want to continue to grow as the years go by.
It's important for us to tell students, you are this campus, right? You are half of the undergraduate population. You are this campus. You have a voice here. You definitely belong here. And that's another reason why we put this thing called CE3 together.
There's always counselors and always a warm smile when you go into the CE3 office. And I think that's one thing that nobody can ever take for granted.
I am a completely different person today than I was 2 years ago. And I think that it's because of the Transfer Center, so. Oh no.
I was able to find the help and support I need within this cluster of what is CE3.
Having that support network made it feel like you weren't at risk, but rather a risk taker, and that you can do something with your life.
To be at Cal after having a 20-year career as a hairstylist and being comfortable and happy with that and really being at the height of my career, and I having to give it up for my son to be at one of the most prestigious colleges in the world. I mean, it's the most amazing thing you can ever imagine. So I'm excited about it and looking forward to making a difference.
So I want to first give kudos because the video you just saw was actually created by one of our student employees. So I think one of the things that's a big value for us here at CE3 is also investing in our students, not just in terms of supporting them, but also in hiring them and making them part of our family and our culture. So as we move along on our program, now's the time where you're going to hear from some of our other panelists. I'm going to take the opportunity to hand it over to them. What you're seeing on your screen here is, I mentioned how CE3 is comprised of a number of different programs, and what you see there is that footprint. What are the different programs that comprise CE3? So I'm going to let my colleagues and the folks who lead these areas introduce themselves and walk through their programs, giving you a little indication on what each program is about, what it intends to support you with, and really what the community feels like in those areas. And I'm going to start with independent student programs.
Excellent. I feel a little badly that my computer is of a certain vintage, so I can't have a cool background for you, but I did make sure to bring my Cal flag, so I'm a little taste of the rally committee on campus. So again, congratulations and glad you're joining us. The Independent Student Program subcluster is comprised of a lot of the programs that you heard featured in the film. So the first, alphabetically, would be the Berkeley Hope Scholars Program that serves, as you heard, current and former foster youth, probation youth, students who've been orphaned before the age of 18. You get the idea. Great community there. The Cal Veteran Services Center is another program that supports not only military veterans, but also anyone who has any kind of military affiliation, whether active duty or even dependents, partners, and spouses. The reentry student program broadly supports students, undergraduate students and beyond, who are here a little bit later in life. Typically that would be 25 years of age or older. And our Student Parent Center is a program that supports all of our parenting students who are combining their academic program along with actively parenting. So you can imagine the challenges there. Those were our programs. I'll pitch to Lorena.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Congratulations. And I am Lorena Valdez. I am the Director of Transfer Student Programs for CE3. My areas include the Transfer Student Center, which serves students who transfer from other colleges and universities. Also, the Student Support Services Program, or SSS, which is a federally funded TRIO program, and the Miller Scholars Program, which is a program for transfer students, a small undergraduate research program for transfer students. I am originally from East Los Angeles, and I am also a Cal alum. My majors were English and Chicano Studies, and I had an incredible experience when I was an undergraduate at Cal. So I'm excited about what lies ahead for you. If you should choose Cal, it's a place of incredible opportunity, and I think it's something that you will find, transforming for a variety of reasons. One of the things that's true about our programs, I think really across CE3, is that we are constantly looking for ways to support students, and we do that in a variety of ways. Certainly, we are offering advising support, right? Because we know these particular experiences, whether you're a transfer student or an EOP student, a first generation college student, a Cal veteran, we know a lot about these experiences. And so we've set up and created programs to really guide you and support you as you transition in to Cal, but also as you move through that experience. At different times, you will need different things. So that's really what we're designed to do, to support you and to help you achieve and to make the most of this experience. I'll end by saying that right now, it's just what our students are experiencing in light of COVID-19. There's a lot going on, but we are working with our student communities to figure out what the needs are. We are doing surveys. We are organizing programs virtually. I mean, we're telling students our doors are closed physically on campus, but we're still here. So I hope that you, join us and certainly join part and be part of our community and everything that we're creating. And I think that you will find that to be incredibly rewarding and meaningful. So we look forward to supporting you as you choose Cal, and go Bears. So yeah, that.
Good afternoon. My name is Fabricio Mejia. I'm Assistant Vice Chancellor in the Division of Equity and Inclusion. I have the pleasure of standing in today for Meng So, who is the Director of the Access and Opportunity Programs. And essentially, it's two areas that report under Meng. One is the Educational Opportunity Program. So if you are a first-generation college student, meaning neither one of your parents graduated from a 4-year domestic institution, low income, which is designated by Pell Grant status or Dream Aid status, first-generation low income, and what was the third one? I'm a little rusty.
You're right.
California. Oh, historically underrepresented, I'm sorry. So either of those are three. Some universities, you have to meet all three or a combination of those. Here at Berkeley, it's any one of those will make you eligible for EOP. And I see the questions around registering for EOP. You don't need to register for EOP, much like in other universities. You're just, you are now part of EOP. Now you just need to choose to access the resources, the counselors, the staff, et cetera. The other program in the Access and Opportunity subcluster is the Undocumented Student Program. And so roughly we have about close to 500 undocumented students here at Berkeley, and services like legal services, academic counseling, mental health support services, et cetera, you name it, things built out to support those communities very specifically. And as Lorena mentioned, there's a lot of intersectionality amongst these programs, and you will go through many of these programs and also the associated programs that also report closely to this unit, Disabled Students Program, Basic Needs Center, et cetera. So we're here for you. And much of, I will also say that many of these programs, I think all of them actually, are the first of their kind in the UC system for sure, and in most cases in the nation. And so that goes to show that we continue to build the programs in response to what the students are telling us they need and the experiences that they're bringing to UC Berkeley. So we're here for you. We would love you to join us. And I'll hand it over to Julian to talk about the model of the programs and what we do.
So thanks, Fabrizio. So keep those questions coming in. We are going to have, again, a dedicated area of this session where we're going to speak exclusively in dialogue with those questions, but keep them coming in. We might not get to them at this moment as we're presenting, but again, we will get to your questions before the session is over. I want to now point you to, again, an idea of what we do. You've heard of the different programs, the different specializations, and I think that the idea that we specialize in those areas can't be minimized. When you talk about who we serve and what we do, first generation, the idea that sometimes, you know, there's not someone to turn to, or you don't have the on hand, maybe the knowledge of someone who's gone through this before, or has family who's gone through this before in terms of navigating the university and college. Not only do we try to provide you with that information and kind of those unwritten rules to be successful, we also try to work with students and have them really acknowledge the strengths that they bring to the experience at Berkeley. Just because you're a first generation or maybe historically have not been represented at the university level, doesn't mean that there's not a wealth of wisdom and expertise that you can draw from in terms of what you've experienced in your community, with your families, leadership. Obviously, you know, you've accomplished a lot being admitted into UC Berkeley. So the visual that you're seeing on your screen now, and let me zoom in a little bit more, speaks to kind of what we do in CE3. And if you notice, again, sometimes when we talk about what it is to work in CE3 when we offer students, a lot of times folks kind of have this a bit more narrow view of us kind of being aligned with kind of traditional and historical academic advising units. And we certainly have that expertise, but it's much more than that. Really, in a nutshell, I think what we talk about is we cannot separate who you are as a person and how you live outside of the walls of the university from your experience in the university. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing all those things. So, you know, when you take a quick look at this graphic here, you can see that we're touching on a lot of different things. We're concerned about a lot of different things. Your well-being starts with, how are you? And I, you know, many times I think the best greeting we can give you, and probably what you will hear from loved ones and parents as you move forward in this journey, one of the first questions might be is, you know, when's the last time you ate? You know, have you eaten something? And again, really starting from that place of how are you doing personally, because we know that sets up any kind of success you can have as a student. So we have so many different programs. You saw them in the org chart visual. And again, I would really invite you to dig deeper, to really go to our website at ce3.berkeley.edu and start looking at the specifics of what each program offers, because it's not just the expertise. Many of the staff in those programs also have identified as that type of student. You know, again, our Veteran Center coordinator was a student vet here at Berkeley himself, for example. And again, you see that across the board in our programs at CE3, but it's not just that. We also, I think to Lorena's point about seeking ways to best support students, are looking for the best ways to meet sometimes the unique needs of students that are in particular populations. Again, student parents is another great example of that, and really aiming and framing and building our programming and our support to address the specific needs of students who show up and may have kids. So I invite you to look at our websites to learn more and again, become more familiar with our services. We can only do so much. It's really hard in a 1-hour session to go through 9 or 10 different programs. So what we're really trying to do is give you a sense of what we do and point you to where you can get some more of those specific details. The other thing that I'll share with you all, and you saw it in one of the response to one of the questions, is a lot of our programs are doing other sessions like this. So we know EOP has done this. We know the independent student programs are doing panels and sessions, Transfer Center as well. And so one of the things we want to do for the folks who've registered for this is, once we send you an email after this concludes, we'll point you to a website and point you to some links on where you can find information about those sessions as well. There's a lot of archives available to you as well. The other thing I'd like to point out, when you look at what I'm showing you here, you can imagine that the current state that we're in, and again, for all of us, whether you're a student who's just been admitted to Berkeley, whether you're a staff member who's been here for 20+ years, times are uncertain, there is anxiety, there is stress, and I can tell you that CE3, and Berkeley for that matter, I think to build on Fab's point, there's a collection and a network of support here, a net of support here that I think you're going to find it's going to be hard to match that in some of the other institutions that you may be considering. And that's not, let me be clear. I'm not, my point here is not to say rah, rah, Berkeley, this should be your choice. That is a personal choice. And I know so many times it involves more than just your consideration. It is a conversation with family and loved ones. What I want to tell you is be assured that, and I think we're seeing it right now, we have services and really a tapestry of support that right now I think is stepping up to the challenge of these uncertain times, and we're addressing those anxieties as best we can. And just know you won't be alone, and we're set up well to try to help you navigate what may come. With that said, I'm really excited because I think this is the best and the most meaningful part of our session is to turn it over to our student panelists. So I'm going to let each of them introduce who they are. As they introduce themselves, they're also going to respond to a question. They're going to tell you what is one thing they wish they would have known as they were making their decision to come to Berkeley. So again, what is already starting, they're going to identify themselves and say a little bit about themselves. They're also already going to start dropping some pearls of wisdom that you can use as you make this decision and are seeking and identifying resources. So I'll hand it over to Mike.
Hey everyone, just want to say congratulations on your admission. For myself, so my name is Michael Oriana. I'm originally from Hawthorne, so for those from LA, it's next to Inglewood. So it's in the South area of LA County. My field of study, I'm currently a graduate student in the range management program here for the College of Natural Resources. But I actually transferred in as an undergrad back in 2016. I transferred in as a geography major. And then right after that, I applied for grad school, and last 2 years I've been spending, this is my last semester, so I'll be graduating and finishing up my master's here at Berkeley. So that in itself is an accomplishment that I'm really proud of, and I owe a lot to the CE3 programs as well. They've helped me navigate through Berkeley for the last 4 years. So something that I wish I would have known before I was making my decision would have been about the housing situation. For myself, being a student parent, moving up from LA was going to be a big decision. Just finding out I was accepted was shocking in itself. I was still in shock when I found out. Got invited to do Cal Day. When I came up here, I was anxious and nervous because at that point I wanted to come here, but I didn't know if I was going to have the resources available to make that happen. But I mean, once I got here, I found out that there was housing, and once I found that out, then it helped me make my decision right away, because I knew that being here and then bringing my family up and finding housing here through the school, that was going to be the hardest part, and they had helped me out figure that out. So from that point on, it's been I don't want to say downhill, but it's definitely been an experience, and it's been fun. So yeah, that was something I wish I would have known from the beginning, was just how to navigate the housing situation. But like I said, once I got here, I was able to figure that out.
Well, I could go next. My name is Max. I'm from Fairfield, California, about 40 minutes north of Berkeley. I'm a media studies major here, and I'm also a peer advocate lead for the events team at the Transfer Student Center. So something I wish I had known about Berkeley before that would have made the decision a little easier is going to be about like the amount and like accessibility of resources. And that might sound super scripted considering like what everything we've talked about so far, but like I didn't even know exactly what was going on with this. And really it's my own experiences. So I'm a first gen college student. My parents barely graduated high school. We are not like an academically literate or forward family. It was just something I was like, I want to go to Cal. And when I got accepted, of course, I was super excited, but also there was this anxiety built with just not knowing what university life looks like. So in my first semester, I kind of wasn't doing much. I would go to classes and go home, and that was kind of it. But what I didn't know is like how many resources were actually available to students, and not only that, but how eager people on campus are to help. First thing a lot of people will encourage you to do is go to office hours with both your professors and your teaching assistants or grad student instructors. And through that, I've heard students have gotten internships, research opportunities, and then have just been pointed in the right direction. And it's just about building that network. If you just want to have a conversation about what that field of study looks like, the professors I've met with have always been just super open and encourage you to talk about that. Another thing is like EOP and the Transfer Student Center have a bunch of academic counselors that are there to help you both academically and more holistically. There's also events. I know EOP has like a gown rental program that I was interested in because I didn't know if I could afford one at the time. Yeah, there's Student Learning Center on campus, which has a bunch of different programs that can help you. So there's English, math and stat, econ, and like I was struggling with the English class, they helped me out with that. Career Center, and just other departments. I was nervous about not being able to declare my major at first because of a GPA cap. I went in to see another department, and in one day they were able to see me. They had the right paperwork out, and they were like, look, you can declare right now. So I know it could definitely be intimidating and stuff to reach out to like resources on campus, but really go for it. They are super eager to help you. And I definitely think that's super important and would have definitely helped this decision be easier.
Then I guess I'm the next one. Congratulations, Golden Bears. Welcome to Cal. My name is Ratu Arisi Lablava. I go by Arisi. My field of study or my majors at Berkeley are social welfare and anthropology. I believe when reflecting on this question, one thing that I wish I had known before or about Berkeley that would have helped me in making the decision process is like, I think real talk, Berkeley is hard, but I think the thing that makes it even more helpful is like, you know that nobody ever said that you have to do this alone, basically. I think that's where CE3 plays a big part. The reason I say this is because Berkeley has a stereotype of being hard and super competitive, and this may make you feel at times like you don't belong at Cal, or that you may need to go above or beyond your means to make a name for yourself. Although the one lesson that I've learned during my time at Cal is that you don't have to do this thing alone. I've learned this through my community, through CE3, through clusters like EOP and USP, that I do belong at Cal, and I do not have to prove myself to anybody. I just have to be me and to grow up to the person that I want to be. If I was to look back at my freshman self and compare it to myself now, I can honestly say that Berkeley challenged me to grow in every way, physically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. And for that, I couldn't be more grateful. I'm a first-generation low-income student and also a DACA recipient. And during 2015, when I came to Cal, I was one of 0.01% of Pacific Islanders in higher education, or even at Cal. I felt like a minority within minorities when I would look at the identities that I had, and thus I would often pity myself for this. I was constantly stressed out because I had so many barriers to overcome than just school. I was working to support my family. I was pioneering the college experience as a first generation. I was taking a full load of classes, and I was trying to figure out myself in the midst of everything else. The one thing that grounded me and motivated me was actually the CE3 community, or in my case, I call it family. I've benefited from so much love from them that I can not really even put it into words, but I will try my best through explaining some of my personal experiences. During my first year at Cal, I was constantly stressed out because of work, classes, and other things, and because I wanted to prove my self-worth, that I could handle Berkeley and that I was not a mistake. I had this insecurity about asking for help from others. It wasn't until my junior year, when I had a near-death experience at 350 pounds, that this experience shook me. I was 20 years old then, and I felt completely broken because of it. Although it was during this time that I also realized the advice that I hold on to so dearly now. Cal is hard, but nobody said you have to do it alone. I met with my mentor at the time, Meng So, the day after the incident, and he helped me outline and navigate the resources that were available to me. From that day forth, I started to see the amount of love that I was met with by the CE3 community in my journey towards higher education and towards finding myself. This community became my community hospital, my personal coaches, my academic counselors, and my family away from home. Now at a healthy weight after losing 100 pounds and as a more rooted individual, I can honestly say that the one thing that I wish I would have known before going to Berkeley is that there's a community like CE3 there for students like you. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to Mike, Max, and Reese. Again, I think you can hear from what they share. Just there's a wealth of knowledge and resource to build from. And again, I think one of the things that we've done, you saw a little bit for those of you that saw the video, that resource exists, that wealth of knowledge exists, not just with the staff, but with the students themselves and the student community. So it's really, again, I think that a family is the good way to describe it. And we definitely invite you and welcome you with open arms to be part of this family. We are now at the portion of our program where we really want to jump into your questions. There's a number of ways that's coming in. It's coming in through the Q&A chat here on the Zoom webinar. It's also coming in through our regular chat. I also have the text feature where we have a couple of questions. So I'm gonna invite folks. I'm gonna throw some questions back out to you because I know that our panelists can't see the ones that are texted in. I'm gonna ask them again, the new ones, because I know we have some folks that have just joined in the last few minutes as well. So let me start with the ones.
And actually flag one that came in that you probably won't see. It was to Reese. It was specifically asking about PI support and advice around PI support on campus.
Oh yeah, I can answer that. My junior year, we actually started the PI initiative on campus. So it's actually in the Student Learning Center or in the Cesar Chavez building. We have our own office. I can also send you my personal email for my Berkeley email. That way we can get into more contact and then I can kind of guide you down that way as well. Thank you.
Great, so let me start. I'm gonna ask the panelists if they can either respond verbally or type in for our Q&A, but let me give you the couple questions that have come in through text so far. How can transfer students, and again, I think that we can remind who on the panel is a transfer student, how can transfer students find research and internship opportunities? So I'll give that to our student panelists.
I can answer that. For myself as a transfer student, the one thing that I tend to tell everybody since I've been here, for all that tend to be new admits, is to look at URAPs, so undergraduate research apprenticeship programs. They're usually paid through units, but it's great because you get to work with grad students and professors on research that they're doing, specifically in your field or even in a field that you're curious about. For myself, geography was my background, but leading up to my senior year, a lot of professors were telling me that I should look into grad school. It wasn't something that was on my mind ever, being first generation. Education wasn't necessarily at the forefront of our families. I guess what my parents were pushing towards, right? I mean, most of us were just find a job, start working, make money. That's how you make it, right? But so for me here, once professors started saying that, I started to look into those programs, and I was able to find a research opportunity with the Range program, which is part of the College of Natural Resources. And from there, I mean, I spent a year, my whole senior year, I spent working with them in the lab, going out to really cool work sites, collecting soil, vegetation, doing all these cool things that I got to experience, being in parts that most of the public in California don't get to walk around in. So certain parts of the Sierras, certain parts of the Coast Range. It was awesome experience. That in itself, getting to know both the grad students and the professor, actually helped me with grad school. Even if I wouldn't have applied for grad school, it's a great opportunity for networking because you're going to run into professors left and right, and other research assistants. And that in itself, I can tell you that networking will be head and shoulders above everything else that you want to do here besides your academics. Being able to make those connections will help you out with career career opportunities and grad school opportunities. So that's one of them. Another thing you could also do is, it can be intimidating to speak to some of your professors, especially since some of them have pretty impressive resumes. But a lot of the professors are more than willing to talk about their research. Might not list their research. A lot of them are willing to take you on, or even give you opportunities, even just to volunteer a few hours a week and get to know what they're doing. And that in itself can help you out, just not just increasing your research opportunities and helping you out, but also in getting to know right, that research side of Berkeley, right? Why Berkeley is the place that it is, right? Because you get to see really cool research, whether it's in social sciences, STEM. It's just really cool opportunities.
So keep the questions flowing in. There's a couple of things that have popped out that I want to direct again to our panelists. One of the questions, I think there's a question about housing, and someone was asking on the text line, do we distinguish, is there housing options for non-residents versus residents? And I would say some of the themes in these questions are kind of aid and expense related questions. If you look at the way that Berkeley's set up, residents pay an in-resident fee and non-residents pay fees that are a bit higher for out-of-state residents. The housing options themselves are open to any folks who are resident or non-resident, although again, depending on your resources and what's available to you, you may want to make decisions based on how much each of those options cost. But I do want to send that over to the student panelists right now as well, in terms of how you think about or how you thought about choosing a housing option and the kinds of things you considered and were important to you. There's also some questions about the co-ops, and EOP students do get a priority point in that system. You do need verification of your EOP status for that, so you can contact them directly. But the co-ops are another great option. So I wonder if Mike, Max, and Reese, if you can speak a little bit about your choice in making, your experience in making a housing choice and what you might recommend in making that decision.
I could talk on that. So I live on an off-campus apartment north of campus. I was fortunate enough that I already known 2 students that were living in Berkeley already, and I was able to find an apartment with them, people I had known from high school. And we found our place, oddly enough, through Craigslist, which might sound super sketch, but it's pretty typical. And you know, it's lower than what a lot of on-campus dorms look like, but then you have the whole thing of like, you're cooking for yourself. We don't have like RAs, attentive neighbors, and we live about a mile from campus, which isn't honestly that bad. Another super common thing with students is Facebook housing groups. A lot of people will find it through there. I think Julian had mentioned the co-ops, which is super good for people if you need like the lower income housing and stuff. And people, I've met some students that like, man, that is their community, that is their family. They love it there. They have like options to go back for break, and they stay with the co-ops, and they just love the people there. But yeah, housing can definitely be weird. I think transfer students, it could be odd too, because you don't know the area at all, and you kind of have 2 years to figure it out. But yeah, there are a lot of opportunities. Just look for it. It might be random, but I know there's definitely initiatives to help that on finding housing.
For myself, being a student parent and also being married, for myself, we have the UC Village, and it's about 3 miles away from campus. You can apply for that at the berkeley.housing.edu, I believe, if I remember that right. And once you apply there, then all you need to do is just either be married or have a dependent or be a legal guardian. And then you can apply for that through the school itself. It's great because there's actually a bus that passes through here, part of the AC transit system. So it picks you up, it goes around the village, and then takes you to campus. So those are ways to do that. I found out about that the day that I did my Cal Day visit. So for many of you, you definitely want to, if you're going to accept and come to Berkeley, which I hope all you choose to, it's you want to apply right away. It helps you out. Definitely speak to EOP as well, to your, to the programs, because they can actually help you out, make your way through the application and some of the processes. The Student Parent Center is a great place for that. Even if you're married and you don't have kids, but you're married, definitely look into it. there's plenty of opportunity for that.
In terms of my experiences with housing, I've lived in apartments since freshman year. So I think for me, it was like finding roommates that like we could vibe with well together. I started making friends within my classes my freshman year. And then from there, I kind of just sorted out like, oh, like who would I mesh well with? And then kind of just like meeting with them, talking about like when we sleep, when we wake up, and then kind of having a layout of that really helped, especially in the moving process. I also recommend just like checking out the co-ops as well. I think the co-ops are, as EOP students, you do get priority on the list, right, for the co-ops. And so that helps a lot. I recommend just like checking out different sites. Don't be like too committed to one, because who knows, you might vibe well at another place and it might be more convenient. So I'd suggest that, yeah.
I also want to take a second to also have a question go to one of our staff panelists. There's a question about kind of the type of support that might be available during the current situation that we're navigating, everything that we're experiencing in light of COVID-19. Is there supplemental support financially or otherwise? And so Fab, I wanted to bring you in because one of the things we haven't talked a lot about is our partners. CE3 is a big cluster. We also work very closely with our partners, and one of those partners is our Basic Needs Center. So Fab, maybe if you could talk a little bit about the Basic Needs Center, what they do and how they're responding and helping support alongside with us the needs of students as we navigate COVID-19.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, all of the programs in CE3 have responded quickly and strongly regarding the increased need, not just in direct student support, but also in advocating for the needs that we see happening around our students and their challenges. So you see that in the student parent community, you see that in the undocumented community and in general with first and low income students, et cetera, et cetera. I would say one thing that really stands out about Berkeley is how robust our Basic Needs Center is and how connected it is to many of the programs in CE3 and other programs. And so the basic needs efforts across the state started here at Berkeley. So it makes sense that we're pushing the envelope. And so one of the things that has happened, even pre-COVID, what necessitated us really talking about basic needs was the fact that the Bay Area is the most expensive college town to live in. Berkeley itself is the most expensive college town to live in. And so in that reality, we had to ask the question, is what students are getting in their financial aid enough to cover what we think it is? The answer was no. And so we had to have some real conversations about what does it look like to support students fully in this effort. So fast forward, Basic Needs Center, we're really focused on food and housing security, and also looking at other initiatives around mental health access, et cetera. What does it mean to have for a student to have full basic needs? So what's happened post-COVID is we've been negotiating and working very closely with financial aid, our partners there, and doing proactive awarding to the different communities that need equitable support. So what does it look like if you have dependents and they're not in school and you don't have childcare and you need more money for food, for one, and a bunch of other things. And so you could look at every community and that conversation has been happening. So I would say confidently that Berkeley, compared to any university in California or the nation, is well suited to help support, to be a safety net for you. So I know many of y'all may be thinking, is this the right time for me to go to college? And comparing and weighing, what it looks like for you to pause and do other things. I would argue that that's a conversation you should have with one of our staff members, because you will, once you weigh the different factors, in many cases it makes more sense to be at the social safety net of what Berkeley has to offer you in terms of financial aid, basic needs, the CE3 programs, and everything else that you'll be eligible for.
And let me switch gears for a second and ask for a little bit more information that is program specific. Again, tracking some of the questions. Ron, we have a student, Maria, who wanted to know a little bit more about the reentry student program. So maybe you could share that a little bit. And then I'm going to come right back to you, Fab, as our representative for Access and Opportunity Programs. We have a student who's asking about resources for DACA, but they actually want is looking for Mike to maybe chime in on that as well. So let me start with you, Ron.
Yeah, thanks for the prep, and I recognize that I was a little brief in my comments earlier, that I could have said more about our intersecting communities of independent students. So the reentry student program not only offers advising like a lot of our programs do in CE3, strategic and holistic counseling advising, but we offer transition courses, scholarships are available, and even for newly admitted students. The one that I would put on your screen in particular is called the Crank Start Reentry Scholarship Program. And this is one that, you know, typically with scholarships, you apply this year and you would get funding or be considered for funding next year. This is not like that. You apply this year and you get funded this year. And so we'll be supporting 10 students in the amount of $5,000 each through our Crank Start Reentry Scholarship Program. So in addition to the classes and scholarships, we also have an ongoing kind of a social engagement group that we call OWLS. That stands for Older, Wiser Learners. So these are folks who recognize that it's a little bit different when you come to the university a little later in life. And in contrast to what a number of folks experience at California community colleges, where there's a number of reentry students around, there's still, you know, roughly a community of 1,700 reentry students here at Berkeley, but that's 1,700 within a sea of about 30,000. So that can be somewhere between 5 and 7%. So reentry students are not quite as visible. So finding opportunities of being around folks who can get your experience in what it means to come to the university later in life can be super valuable. You know, the first time you get asked, "Oh, are you the professor?" The first time is kind of cool. The 5th time, the 10th time, it loses the charm a little bit. So there's a number of great resources and opportunities that folks can connect to through the program.
Thanks, Ron. And then again, going over to Fab, and maybe Mike, if you want to talk a little bit about resources for DACA students.
As I mentioned, so we have about 500 students that are undocumented, and a mix of whether that is DACA eligible or non-DACA eligible. So our services in the undocumented student program are for all undocumented students, regardless of DACA status. For DACA students, obviously there are some more options with regards to access to what's called director's work study. So you can do the equivalent of a work study job through a different pot of money that has been put together by our financial aid office. If you're non-DACA, we're putting together what's called an inclusive fellowship model, which would allow you to be eligible to be an apprentice, to do things like research, things that are, it's not necessarily a job because it can't be a job, but we're figuring out a way to deal with the 2 parts of that, which is experience in a job and the money to be able to cover that piece of your financial aid offer letter. But there are tons of services for undocumented students. If you look at, I'll post the website in the chat box, and you can take a look.
Great, thank you. And again, I'll invite any panelists who want to jump in to respond either in the text or in the chat or here to do so, because we have lots of questions still coming in. There's another theme that I'm pulling from some of these questions, which are about health insurance. I want to get back to that as well, but I think Mike, you wanted to add some as well?
Yeah, so for, I believe her name is Marisol Rubio. Looks like she's a recently admitted grad student, so congratulations, and congratulations on accepting it. When it comes to finance opportunities, for CE3 themselves, you might have to look into the program itself, but I know that usually through the programs, you can actually talk to your advisor. Definitely start to reach out now. The sooner you reach out to your advisors, the easier the transition will be for you heading into the fall, especially with the uncertainty right now because of COVID-19. But they usually have finance opportunities for you, such as GSIing or GSR, which help you with fee remissions, for your program. But if you have any more questions, feel free to email me. I sent you my email, so that way I can give you more details on it.
Thanks. So I'm going to go back to staff panelists. There's a question about the SIR deposit and if there's any way low-income students would get any aid there. So I want to come back to you about that, but I do want to go further with the theme that I mentioned earlier about the health insurance. And again, I think one of the things you're already starting to understand is a lot of what we do in CE3 in our programs is, again, help navigate the environment of limited resources and funding your Berkeley experience primarily through financial aid. And that comes into play when we talk about health insurance. It does, a part of the questions were, if I'm Pell eligible, if I'm considered low income, will that cover, will I get help to cover the insurance cost of the university insurance? Another person asked, do I need to pay for that if I have my own insurance? So it is important to look at each individual case, but I can tell you overall that if you are, for the most part, low-income Pell eligible, you do receive a level of grant that pays for the health insurance. There are some other things that you need to consider here, mostly to do with whether or not you are counting on Medicaid support. But if that's not the case, generally speaking, if you are low income, you have a grant that covers your health insurance. In that situation, even if you have other health insurance, it's not necessarily your benefit to decline the university health insurance, because in effect, what you're also doing is removing the part of your aid that is paying for that. So you basically can get more coverage, the university health insurance and your personal, if you're in that situation. If you're in a situation where you're not receiving the aid because maybe you're above what's considered low income here to cover your health insurance, and you do have your own private health insurance, in that situation, opting out of the university health insurance will mean you won't be charged that amount. You do have to have health insurance. So in the situation where you have your own personal, you do have to apply for a waiver and show proof that you have that insurance. So I want to come back to the staff about this other question that I asked earlier, and navigating that as well. And I was asking about the SIR deposit and any help that aid might provide for low-income students. So in terms of the SR deferral, and again, I believe, Fab, you may have the most current information here as it relates to first semester experience. And again, sometimes we get these questions through GBO and GBA. But for students who are low income, what will happen with your SIR deposit is it will get deferred. So it is covered by your financial aid. It's not waived. But in that way, you don't have, what I'm not clear on this year is it a partial deferment or an entire deferment? So I don't know if Fab, you have some information about that.
It's typically an entire deferment. So basically, they're not asking you to pay out of pocket, but they're putting that towards, it's towards your registration fees anyway. So in either way, they're just paying themselves with financial aid. And there's two different deferment, two separate things that deferment refers to. One is deferment of payment, and another is deferment of registering, an official request to admissions to defer your admission status for a semester or a year. And I want to be clear that of which one we're talking about.
So another question that was asked some while back, but I think it's an important question. If you're in this place where you don't quite know what decision you're making. So I definitely want to direct this to Mike, Max, and Orisi. This question was asked earlier. You've been admitted to other top tier schools. If you have some great choices, and in this case, the person is describing choices, primarily in Southern California. Can you talk about how you made your decision based on a similar decision you made? Like, how do you compare having some great options, and did you experience going through that in making your choice?
I think I can start. I think for me, it was the idea of, well, three things. Distance, I think, so I'm from Sacramento. And so what distance can I be close enough to my family where I can help out, but far enough that I can be independent? And for me, that worked well with Berkeley. I think a second thing was financial aid. Financial aid helps amongst the schools that I applied to. Berkeley gave the most financial aid, and so that really helped sink in my decision, because for one, like I'm a first generation college student. I didn't know how I was going to pay for any of this, so I think that's a big thing that you might want to consider as well. And then 3 is exploring the campuses, or like in this case, I guess, like talking to people that represent the campuses and just seeing where you can get connected in and which part fits you most in. So for me, like I visited, when I came in 2015, I visited each campus that I applied into, and it made most sense, and I had the most relational connection with UC Berkeley staff, and they were CE3 representatives. So that for me, that was the big things.
For myself, it was also financial aid and housing opportunities. But also another one was what, if you compare your majors at these schools, what opportunities do they provide, right? They're all going to provide something different, right? Each one's going to have some different type of teaching method, opportunities for research, opportunities for internships. So that's something that also is a good thing to look at, to look into, to see how that can help you out. Because at the end of the day, right, you're making this decision because you're picking this major because, that might be the career choice you're going into, or it might help you get to grad school. So it's also an important thing to look at too, how that school can benefit you, not just right now, but right in the future, and how those majors they can be significantly different, especially on the way they approach them and the classes they provide.
For myself, financial aid was similar everywhere I'd gotten accepted. So it wasn't too bad. There's of course like difference in living expenses. Living in like the Bay is a lot different than living in like Davis, for example. But also like what you want to do with your major, I think is similar to like what Mike was saying. So I applied to Berkeley as a media studies transfer student, while every other campus I applied to had a communications department. And communications at other CSUs and UCs tends to be more practical, as opposed to UC Berkeley, where it's interdisciplinary and more theoretical. And I didn't exactly think I wanted to do something practical necessarily. So with that like interdisciplinary field that like UC Berkeley offered, it kind of helped that decision to have different studies with media studies. So I have like sociology courses, Chicano studies courses, history courses. In addition, I think Orisi had mentioned like going to those campuses, which I guess right now definitely isn't the move. But I definitely knew when I came here in my freshman year, like visiting friends, like I knew off bat, like I wanted to go here. I stepped on campus, and for the first time in my life, I like wanted to learn, which was crazy to me. And I was just really like impacted by the people I saw around me and this like overwhelming feeling I had inside to go here. And that really drove me to try hard at my community college and transfer out.
So we're winding down in time. I want to make sure that I'm going to try to make it a goal of ours to get through 3 questions here that are on the deck. One is, and I'm looking, I think, to Ron and Lorena for a couple of these. One is a question about, what students could potentially do in the fall. The other question is about mentorship opportunities, alumni mentorship of students, mentorship overall. I know that does happen a lot in ISP and transfer programs. So as part of the student employee model many times. So I wanted to see if you all could speak a little bit about that. And then I have another question here that I'll try to close with as well. So Ron and Lorena, can you speak to that? Maybe opportunities for the fall for spring admits, and then mentorship as it's embedded in your areas?
I could jump in. I did see the question about opportunities for fall for our spring admits. And so, I think fall is just, really wide open. And I think you can make of it whatever you would like and what you imagine. Some students, I mentioned in my response, choose to work and save a little more money. So they're ready once they transfer to Cal and there's a little bit more in the bank and that feels more comfortable. And other students just want to take a break from all the school and everything they've been doing to prepare for this moment. So it is completely, I think, up to you in terms of what you want to do with that particular semester. And once you get to Cal in the spring, we will talk with you about kind of what it means to jump in at that point. We will connect you with other spring admits who are transfers, so you get a sense of how they've navigated. And the campus feels a little different in the spring than it does in the fall, and that could be a good thing. So we'll explore kind of what that picture looks like for you once you make your way. And also very quickly, in response to the mentoring question, there are a variety of mentoring programs. It's like a conversation that really we want to have with you about what are you looking for in an alumni mentor, and can we help you connect to other mentoring programs that might also support you in what you're looking for and what you're trying to build and develop.
So Ryan, maybe can you speak? I know we're a little over time. Thank you for the folks who stayed on. And I know Reese had to go, but just I want to clear out a couple more questions. And again, apologies, we won't get to every question. We had a lot come in. Thank you so much. And this is, again, really a push to drive you to our websites and make individual contact with the programs that you identify with. But I know that the model of a lot of our student employees, folks are wondering about opportunities to seek mentorship from alumni or others. So if you could speak a little bit about what that looks like in CE3, Ron?
Definitely, yeah. And it really will vary from program to program. But really, I would say most, if not all of our programs have quite a strong connection to our alumni. And the alumni, in part because of the experience that they've had. I mean, I'll point him out since he's one of our panelists. Mike Orellana completed his undergraduate degree here and now is completing a master's degree. So he's still connected to CE3 and our programs, and folks like him, because of the experience and sense of community and way that they're able to connect to resources and assist other folks by helping keep that doorway and pathway open for other students. There's a high degree of engagement and interest in staying involved to help newly admitted and current students who are here at Berkeley. So there are great opportunities to be able to not only get some guidance from folks who were maybe studying in a similar pathway, but also folks who are now at career or graduate programs beyond Berkeley who are very interested in being of assistance to be able to help all of you who are now here to be able to make the most not only of your Berkeley opportunity, but to be able to help you really get to where you're wanting to go beyond your Berkeley degree.
Thank you so much, Ron. And as we begin to close, and I know we've gone a couple minutes over, thank you for those who stayed on and for the panelists as well. Really want to point to Max and to Mike, just as you've kind of heard this conversation play out, some of the things you've heard from students, some of the themes, anything come to mind in terms of something you really think is important to leave our attendees with? I'll start with, well, whoever wants to jump in.
I'll start. One of the most impactful things that somebody ever told me the first time I showed up to Berkeley was, once you're Cal, you're family. And at first, I didn't know what that meant, but in all honesty, that first semester, I came to realize that it's true. Once you're here, you're gonna meet a lot of cool people with a lot of cool stories. You're all gonna be going through the same rigors of your academic career. But just know that once you're here, you're family. You're always gonna have help, even when it seems like you don't. You'll have resources that'll help you out. Even at your lowest, there's always people that are willing to go up to bat for you. So you'll never feel truly alone here. That's been my thing, as Ron said. I'm big on building community. I never saw myself here ever growing up. Growing up as a kid, I thought this was the school for the smartest kids in the world, but I never thought that would ever be me. So just being here in itself, now I feel that I'm just trying to do my part to help out everybody that comes through here, gets the opportunity to be accepted, at least gets the opportunity to make the decision whether this is the school for you or not. Yeah, just know that once you're Cal, you're family.
Something that transfer students struggle with, and maybe some others as well, but we talk about a lot, is imposter syndrome. And I think it's definitely something I thought of when I first got accepted. I thought, like, man, I don't write good essays. Like, these guys don't know what I'm talking about. I'm writing kind of trash. And I was doing well on my papers. And something I wish somebody told me, and now I preach to a lot of students, is you made it into the #1 public university in the world. Like, look around. I tell students that get newly admitted, when you're first on campus, like, walk a Memorial Glade and take a moment to just breathe and look around you and you see all the students, and Berkeley can feel super fast paced, super career oriented, and it definitely is. So make sure when you first get in here, like, you made it. And I guess that might be contingent upon COVID-19. So right now, take that moment if you need to, and like, you're in this panel, you're doing something right, you got admitted. So congrats, you guys.
Thank you so much once again. We're going to wrap this up now. Again, apologies to the questions we didn't get to. Thank you again to all the panelists. I think kind of what you heard from Mike and Max is a great way to start wrapping this up. I think, you know, we believe you're brilliant. We celebrate your accomplishment. Again, congratulations for getting into the #1 public university in the entire world. And also know that if you do choose to make a decision to come to Berkeley, you're going to be cared for. You're going to be understood, and you have a family of support waiting for you. So thank you so much. Thanks again, folks. Hope to talk to you in the near future as Berkeley students, and thanks again to all of our panelists. We're going to wrap this up. We are going to send an email with follow-up with the link to folks with some other resources as well, and we'll archive this at some point as well. So thank you so much for attending, and go Bears.
Go Bears.